For 30 years, Marvel's first family has been Hollywood's greatest curse. 4 attempts, 4 distinct eras, all ending in disappointment, cancellation, or outright disaster. In 2025, Marvel Studios, the once unbeatable titan of cinema, stepped up to try and break that curse with the Fantastic Four: First Steps. They had the cast, the vision, and the full weight of the MCU behind them. But online, a narrative has taken hold that despite all this, the curse remains. That the film is, once again, a failure. But is that the truth? Or is the story of this film's box office far more complicated and far more interesting than a simple pass-fail grade? To understand what really happened, we need to look past the headlines and dive deep into the numbers, the history, and the new unforgiving reality of the blockbuster business. By any objective, historical measure, the launch of the Fantastic Four: First Steps was an unqualified success. The film debuted to a massive $118 million at the domestic box office, contributing to a stunning $218 million global opening. These figures represented a heroic win for Marvel Studios, providing a much-needed course correction after the financially underwhelming performances of other recent releases like The Marvels and Thunderbolts. The opening was so strong that the film's Thursday preview screenings alone, which raked in $24.4 million, nearly surpassed the entire $25.6 million opening weekend of the disastrous 2015 reboot. Despite the triumphant opening, the narrative began to shift during the film's second weekend. First Steps experienced a sharp 64% drop in box office revenue, earning an estimated $42 million. This steep decline became the primary piece of evidence for those arguing the film was underperforming. For context, this drop was more severe than the 62% decline seen by Eternals, a film that received a much more divisive B grade from CinemaScore, suggesting that even with positive audience feedback, First Steps was struggling to maintain momentum. This perceived weakness was amplified by the looming presence of its primary competitor, DC's Superman, which had opened just 2 weeks earlier. While First Steps narrowly beat Superman's Thursday preview numbers, the DC film demonstrated significantly stronger endurance, or legs. In its fourth weekend, Superman saw a gentle drop of only 44%, a sign of sustained audience interest. This resilience led to industry projections that Superman would ultimately outgross First Steps at the domestic box office by a margin of $50 to $60 million, framing the Marvel film as the runner-up in the summer's biggest superhero showdown. The sharp drop also sparked concerns that the film would struggle to cross the symbolic $300 million domestic milestone, a benchmark often expected of a top-tier blockbuster. However, attributing the second weekend slump to poor word of mouth is a misreading of the data. The A CinemaScore is a direct contradiction to this idea, as it indicates that the audiences who actually saw the film enjoyed it immensely. The cause of the drop lies elsewhere. First, Marvel's massive, all-encompassing marketing campaign created an event atmosphere, successfully compelling the core fan base and the most curious moviegoers to see the film on its opening weekend. This front-loaded the audience, leaving a naturally smaller pool of potential ticket buyers for the following week. Second, the theatrical marketplace of summer 2025 was intensely competitive. With Superman still performing strongly and Jurassic World Rebirth having just opened, casual audiences had multiple high-profile options. The steep drop, therefore, was not an indictment of the film's quality, but rather a reflection of modern marketing strategies and extreme release window saturation. The creative success of First Steps was backed by one of the largest financial commitments for a non-Avengers MCU film. The production budget was reported to be north of $200 million, with some estimates placing it closer to $250 million. On top of this, Marvel and Disney deployed a massive promotional campaign valued at an additional $170 million. This brought the total cost to make and market the film to well over $300 million. This colossal investment created an incredibly high bar for success. Following the general industry rule of thumb that a film must earn 2 to 2.5 times its production budget to break even and become profitable, First Steps needed to gross between $400 million and $500 million at the worldwide box office. To ensure it hit this target, the studio launched an aggressive, multi-platform marketing assault designed to overcome the franchise's toxic brand history. The campaign began with star-powered cast reveals that trended globally and was supported by a constant presence at fan conventions like San Diego Comic-Con. The marketing leaned heavily into the film's unique aesthetic, with retro-inspired posters and merchandise. It also included inventive viral stunts, such as creating a real-life Zillow listing for the team's Baxter Building headquarters and securing numerous brand tie-ins with companies like Little Caesars and Pop-Tarts. This strategy created what can be described as a blockbuster's dilemma. The studio had to spend a fortune to guarantee a massive opening weekend, signaling to audiences that this film was a major event and, crucially, that it was nothing like the failed versions of the past. This was a calculated risk that paid off, as the $218 million global debut put the film nearly halfway to its break-even point in a single weekend. However, this very strategy also explains the film's volatile box office trajectory. By generating such immense, front-loaded hype, the campaign ensured that almost every dedicated fan and curious moviegoer saw the film immediately. This created an enormous opening, but left a much smaller audience for the second weekend, making a steep drop almost inevitable. The film's financial structure was therefore directly linked to its box office performance curve. The high cost necessitated a strategy that, while successful in launching the film, gave the appearance of instability in its subsequent weeks. While First Steps was a domestic powerhouse, its performance in international markets was more complex and, in some cases, softer than anticipated. This reflects a growing trend in which Hollywood blockbusters no longer have a guaranteed monopoly on audience attention worldwide. The rise of strong local film industries and shifting cultural tastes means that even a well-reviewed MCU film faces significant challenges abroad. The film's run in India serves as a clear case study. Despite a respectable opening, First Steps struggled to maintain momentum against stiff local competition. The Bollywood romantic drama Sayara was a domestic juggernaut, grossing over Rs 266 crore, approximately $32 million, and dominating screens across the country. This, combined with a strong opening for an animated mythological film, fragmented the audience and significantly ate into the potential earnings for the Marvel movie. As a result, First Steps saw its collections fall sharply during the weekdays and ultimately trailed the box office performance of its competitor, Superman, in the Indian market. This experience is a microcosm of a larger global trend. An analysis of Superman's international performance, which was also seen as somewhat disappointing despite its domestic success, pointed to factors like a perceived anti-American sentiment in some parts of the world and a simple lack of character recognition in certain markets. While Fantastic Four may not carry the same truth, justice, and the American way baggage, its performance demonstrates that the MCU's global dominance is no longer absolute. International markets are becoming more sophisticated and diverse, and success is increasingly fragmented and dependent on the specific cultural context of each territory. Within the internal strategy of Marvel Studios, the Fantastic Four: First Steps represents a crucial and undeniable victory. It successfully rebooted a deeply damaged but critically important IP, providing a much-needed artistic and financial course correction after a period of creative uncertainty and box office disappointments. Most importantly, it has successfully introduced cornerstone characters who are already slated to play a major role in the future of the MCU, particularly in the upcoming event film Avengers: Doomsday. The film's performance also serves to redefine what success looks like for the studio in the current climate. While a final worldwide gross in the projected range of $650 to $750 million will not touch the billion-dollar-plus heights of Marvel's peak, it should be considered an enormous success for this specific film, given its toxic history and the hyper-competitive market it was released into. The era of nearly every MCU property being a guaranteed billion-dollar hit is over. First Steps proves that the studio can still launch major, profitable, and critically acclaimed blockbusters, but it also establishes a more realistic benchmark for non-Avengers team-up films. This is the new normal for Marvel. A landscape where a $700 million hit is not a disappointment, but a hard-fought and vital win. So, is the Fantastic Four: First Steps a failure? The answer unequivocally is no. It is a resounding critical and commercial success. The perception of failure comes from a misunderstanding of the modern box office. Its steep second weekend drop wasn't a sign of audience rejection, but a symptom of a massive, front-loaded marketing campaign designed to overcome 3 decades of failure. Its final box office tally, while perhaps not reaching the stratosphere of Marvel's golden age, is a heroic achievement in one of the most competitive summer markets in memory. More importantly, the film succeeded where all others failed. It was good. It had heart, it had vision, and it finally treated Marvel's first family with the respect they deserve. The film's true success isn't measured in its final dollar amount, but in the fact that after 30 long years, the curse is finally broken.